We have the first section done. Now we just need to apply the same procedure to the other two icons and text. Let's go back to the script. We have this paragraph here. It says, second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. So we're gonna go to flaticon.com and let's type in authoring tool. The results may not be that great because the term authoring tool is not a widely used term. You can see here, not very relevant icons. Let's just type in software. All right, here we go. We got some good ones. There's some more. Again, you'll be spending a lot of time trying to find the right asset that goes in with your design. All right, maybe we can use something like this. We want to keep consistent with like the style and colors of the first icon, and I think this one might be okay. So we're going to download the PNG, and then we're going to move it over to the assets folder on your computer. This is just the name of the folder that we created. Yours may be different. Go back to After Effects, and then we're going to import the asset into our images folder. And then we're going to import that into our timeline, and we'll just fine tune it later. Okay, it's imported. We want to adjust the size of it. Hold shift and the corner button, or the corner property, anchor point, or the bounding box. Let's go there. And you know what? I think we could increase the size of this as well. Let's move that up. All right, there we go. Adjusted it. Now let's check the timing. Let's go preview this section. Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like. All right, somewhere around here it says second, learn how to use an authoring tool. So we're gonna move this layer around there, and so let's check. Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. Great. Now, we want to probably use the same animation as the animation we used here. We don't want to get, I wouldn't say too creative, but we want to keep it consistent. So if we're using a certain animation here, we want to use that same animation for this icon. And to determine what animation we use here, we click on it, go to your animation composer, and you can see that it's using the ease, position, and rotate. We can go to the browse section and try to find the exact animation, or you can go back to the edit tab and go to preset actions, copy in transitions. Then click on the icon that we want to animate in, go to preset actions, and go to paste. Now if we scrub it, it is creating the same animation as the first icon. There we go. Now we want to use the same text size as well as animation. So to be more efficient, instead of using a brand new text tool, we're going to copy this one and duplicate it. It's duplicated down here. Let's move that up and move it to the right. The way you move it up is you drag the source name up or down. There's also a keyboard shortcut for that, which is Control Shift and right bracket, but you don't need to. I think it's easier to just use the source name and dragging it up or down. All right. So Okay, let's also move that. Okay, if you hold shift while clicking the right button or the right arrow, it skips a little faster than if you didn't hold the shift button. Okay, and then we need to change the text. What does the script say? Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. Learn an authoring tool. Okay. You know what? Let's move this a little bit to the left. There you go. Okay. We also want to adjust the timing here. Hold shift. There you go. Let's preview that. Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. Thankfully, there are free trials that you... Okay. Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. Okay, let's put Articulate Storyline for the next sub-tab. Let's copy that. Control D or duplicate. And then drag that layer over. Let's drag it up. Where do I say Articulate Storyline? Let's preview. Okay, click away, push 0. Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. Alright, I pushed the star button to create this marker here. So around there is where I say Articulate Storyline. So I'm going to drag it over. Okay, and we need to move that to the right. So let's move that to the right. Okay. Nope. Change the text to Articulate Storyline. Click away. Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. Thankfully, there are free trials that you can use. Okay, it says, thankfully, there are free trials that you can use without having to pay for the product at this time. Okay, let's create another text that say free trials. Let's duplicate this one by doing Control D. Let's move it over to the right. Let's bring this down a little bit. And let's put free trials. Alright, let's preview. Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. Thankfully, there are free trials that you can use without having to pay for the product at this time. Alright, let's move it over a little bit more. Preview. Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. Thankfully, there are free trials that you can use without having to pay for the product at this time. I'll move it over just a little bit more. Okay. This is something may be helpful to you, but not necessary for you to enhance your development. You know, we click on the number button or the number pad, 0 on the number pad to preview. If you click on the period on the number pad, then it will preview just the audio. For example, if I click the period on the number pad, thankfully there are free trials that you can use without having to pay for the... It plays the audio but doesn't preview the actual animations. Sometimes it may be helpful just to listen to see where you should have your animations, but stick to the 0 preview or the preview here if it feels like it is too much to memorize. But I think the timing is good. Okay, let's go to the third one. Lastly, it is very important that you create work samples to showcase to future stakeholders. Work samples. Let's find work samples as an icon. Work sample. Let's see if it gives us anything good. No, those don't look good. Those don't look that good. Let's just type in sample. No, these don't look good either. Portfolio. There we go. Let's do portfolio. More examples. There we go. Here's a good one. No, this one has circles and none of these have little circle backgrounds. So let's find something else. A lot of the times we need to spend time just looking for the right asset. Like for me, that takes up a lot of my time. You know what? This one looks good. Yeah, I think let's go with this one. Let's download it. Free download. And for the attribution, I personally have the subscription, so I don't need an attribute, but you can create an attribute at the end of the video or as a description to wherever you upload it. But as long as you attribute it as saying all icons found from flaticon.com, you should be okay. All right, let's move that over. Okay, let's drag this to our images folder. Okay, and then we're gonna also drag that here. I don't know where it says portfolio or work sample, so let's preview this section. Okay, and then we're gonna click away to create a marker. We want to make sure that none of these are highlighted when we're making a marker. To make a marker, we click star on the number pad. Browse that you can use without having to pay for the product at this time. Lastly, it's very important that you create work samples to showcase. Okay, the work sample, I created a marker there. Let's move this over, resize it a little bit. Okay, let's move that on the layer. There we go. All right, let's create the same animation here for as the ones we did for these two. Again, click on the one that has the animation, go to your animation composer, go to preset actions. Let's copy in transition. Now click on the icon that we want to animate, go to preset actions, let's paste. And notice how the little marker shows up saying transition in. There we go. Now we want to also do the animations and create the text for these. Let's duplicate this. Control D. Move it over on the timeline. Drag it up. Use your arrow to move it to the right. And then let's change the text. Actually, let's align it perfectly like that. Let's create, what does our text say? Our script say? Create work samples. Okay. Now the alignment here doesn't look that great, so let's do that. We want to have some margins around the edges. Technically, these are a little close. Let's change the size to this as 58. There we go. All right. Let's preview. It's very important that you create work samples to showcase to future stakeholders. Okay, it came out a little too late. Let's drag it over. It's very important that you create work samples to showcase to future stakeholders. Nope. Let's drag it over some more. It's very important that you create work samples to showcase to future stakeholders. Create multiple work samples. All right, there we go. Now let's add a bit more subtext, or add a subtext. Control D, duplicate that one, move it over, drag it up. What are we saying here? Create multiple work samples. All right, let's change the text to say multiple work samples. know what, technically the formatting here is not that consistent. You see how the heading here says create work samples and only the first letter is capitalized, and then I capitalized every word here. That's not really consistent, but for the sample, let's just leave it as is. Let's preview. It's very important that you create work samples to showcase to future stakeholders. Create multiple. All right, there we go. It should actually appear somewhere over here. All right. It's very important that you create work samples to showcase to future stakeholders. Create multiple work samples in Storyline and even have sample scripting work available for companies and recruiters to see. All right, there you go. Okay. We got all three of them done. Let's preview all of them here and see. Now, first is to revise your resume so that your keywords reflect the keywords used in instructional design. For example, words like subject matter expert, e-learning, and even LMS. Second, learn how to use an authoring tool like Articulate Storyline. Thankfully, there are free trials that you can use without having to pay for the product at this time. Lastly, it's very important that you create work samples to showcase to future stakeholders. Create multiple work samples in Storyline and even have sample scripting work available for companies and That looks good, and everything is animated properly.